I'm Webbo Herbert, and as per usual, we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line? Address it to the Let's Talk program in K Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis, or give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. And by the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community talk that get results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or a comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized, and when you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, to respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Again, thank you all very much for joining us, your voice in the community talk that get results. Tonight, Roger Fifield, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to my fellow panelists. Special good evening to all those who are listening via the various medias. You know, we're happy that you are tuning with us this evening to the Caribbean's only powerhouse, VON Radio. Webbo, I want to say, congratulations to all those who receive awards for 42nd anniversary of independence. That was recently the 19th of September. Congratulations to them. I want to say special congratulations to Mr. Sports himself, Mr. Curtis Morton. And while I'm on Mr. Morton, I want to wish him happy birthday. Hope that he is having a wonderful day, and of course that he would have a better night. Webbo, I want to encourage all the VLP League in hard times. It's ongoing. I want to encourage persons to support the league. Michael Wise Herbert, is the founder of that village competition, tape ball competition, and he is not at the forefront, and Mr. Williams is at the forefront now, so we must commend him to take the baton and keep it going. It's a wonderful Sunday afternoon family event, and so I'm really asking persons to go out and support the VPL League right there at Hard Times in Gingerland. Webbo, I want to say congratulations to my team, the Eastern's cricket team. They would have played just Sunday gone in the semi-finals, the Nevis Cricket Association Second Division League, and we of course won, and we would be playing in the finals come this Saturday, and I'm wishing my team the best and hope that we can take it right through and lift the championship. Webbo, I want to say a special good evening to all those who are celebrating, who have birthdays, who have anniversaries, and a special event. I hope that you're having a wonderful time and you will continue to enjoy and celebrate to the best that you can. Webbo, for those who are hospitalized, I want to say a special good evening to you and hope that you would get well soon, that you would be back home with your loved ones, your friends, and your family. And of course, those who are bereaved, I want to say to you that to be strong, hold on to God. God knows best. Allow him to be your rock, your comforter, and your strength, especially in this most difficult time. Webbo, as per usual, this is an interactive program, and I want to encourage all those who are listening and viewing to be part of it. Make your call the radio station. Of course, we can learn something from you, and of course, you can learn something from us. And of course, as per usual, I'm looking forward for a fruitful discussion, and I want to thank you once again, Mr. Herbert, for inviting me to this wonderful program. Thank you.
Conrad Niall Libert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to your staff here at the Powerhouse, to my colleague, Mr. Roger Fifield, good evening, and to everyone who's in tune to us by the various ways and means. I say welcome once again to this program. As usual, every Tuesday night, mostly every Tuesday night, we gather to discuss the issues affecting the people in positive and negative ways, not just locally, but regionally, I suppose, sometimes even globally. And it's a pleasure to be part of that conversation. As I always say, Webbo, I'm happy to be within your presence once again, and I hope the information we debate on or converse upon tonight would be of great benefit to the public on a whole, the society on a whole, and to even the culture, politically and otherwise, of this little island. I would like to say to the people, it's a very special time within our history, as far as I check. It's been independence, number 42. And of course, we gotta sometimes reflect on the many years from 1983 until now, and look at our achievements, our developments, and how much we have become even more patriotic to our little island, our little federation. Of course, we're still dealing with the problems from the 1960s. The problems that really developed the political arena here in Nevis, the problems of equality within the Federation, the problems of equal share is still ongoing. I suppose we are still minimized, we are still in some way subjugated and forced to accept various unwavering amounts, I suppose. We are always unhappy on that level. I do hope that we can reach to better and sounder arrangements going forward. I think we're dealing with a new administration here. It's just about a few years old, and it's been said that we are having better relationship, and of course, still unsettled is the financial aspect, financial sharing. And of course, we here of Nevis, our representative in the Federal House, have to be careful in order that they don't upset the ongoing relationship, whether it's beneficial, yes or no, in the hope that in doing so we will achieve what we started out to achieve, really, which is more equality. The leader of the opposition sometimes have to be not really opposing. It's not really a good feeling from the people across the waters. They think that he should be more an opposition leader. But I suppose he has to play his card candidly for the benefit of Nevis. That in itself is to me not really good. Not because you have to play his card candidly, but the fact that we find ourselves in that position. One would argue that better can be done. I suppose this last gesture, the special sustainability zone gesture, is one of the attempts that will bring us, hopefully, if it's materialized, more independence, and it's almost like a drowning man grabbing a straw. But let's hope it's even more than that, really. In that there will be a lot more opportunities coming forward in this new era. Going forward, and not just what we are dealing with now, the lands in the south and the sustainable arrangement. And it's something to say that issue is profoundly massive. It's gone to the four corners of the Western world, I suppose, and certainly to the four corners of the minds of the people in a very serious way. I constantly being bombarded from people who lives abroad and young people. Is I have a young worker, a welder that I've trained, and the first thing she asked me Monday morning is, what do I think about? And of course, a very elder individual who lives overlooking these very lands. I was very surprised that he was again very caught up in the in the stream of the conversation. A friend of mine is driving in the traffic in Connecticut, and he calls me and he said, I am in the traffic, but I want to know what's going on down there. I'm not going to say these people take on the matter, but just to express the fact that there are great concerns, and I know many people, I think, would like it to go away, but it seems to be, at this point, it's still growing in its what could I say, popularity, or still growing in its presence in the minds of the people, and in the minds of the people in the region. The question is why. The question is why, because I believe all of us can agree with the fact that we would like to see some investment in the country. We'd like to see a more vibrant economy. We'd like to see a bigger population. We'd like to see just generally more things happening. We'd like to see the CCM be able to, bring an investment of some great meaning to the people, as that has been the people's concern over the last many years. But the question why this issue remains such a massive issue is a good question, and I think the answer, the various answers to it, is worth a conversation in their very sense. For me, I would think that you see, this democracy that we're dealing with here, we got to be very careful with it. We can embark on a road whereby we destroy our own political culture, and anything goes, and everything goes. And I'm not talking in terms of investor investment, but the way we play this game, we got to try and play it right. We got to respect the principles of democracy. And in doing that, we got to be very sensitive towards the people. Once upon a time, there was a system of government called utilitarianism. Yes, utilitarianism is a system of government where a few decides on behalf of the people. I think that was during probably the Victorian era, sometimes in that region. It basically was a system where a few decides for the population, for the many. But here comes democracy, where the people decide, and that to me is the fundamental principle of this thing called democracy. And I think in observing it, in being a player within the democratic circle, I believe we got to give the people first priority. We got to, as leaders, we got to do what the people ask of us to do. We got to be obligated to the wishes of the people. Of course, in the system of democracy, there is something that called majority rule too. And it simply means that, but in the exercise of it, you don't just take care of the majority, you take care of everyone. But as I link it with the very issue that we're dealing with here, the sustainable goals, the sustainable zone, I do feel like we have dropped the ball to a great extent. We have dropped the ball to a great extent. I read the act, and can't say much about it. I'm not sure vague is the kind of word to use, but it provides a kind of framework. And to be quite honest with you, that frame doesn't seem to be made of iron and steel and well bolted and screwed together. It's mostly seems like it's that kind of frame made of paper and stick together with clammy cherry that we used to make kites out. In a sense that it still depends on the development agreement, and it gives to me quite a lot of room for playing. You know, the development agreement, I think it's what is fundamental. I don't think any one of us could say much about the act. You know, the fact that it still gives Nevis authority over its land and so forth. But to me, it provides. I mean, the fact that it doesn't speak of size, and size is fundamental to this. Size is fundamental. If we are fantasizing that we are dealing with a proposed development that is 3 times the size of Four Seasons, that's going to have movements of 700 to 800 to 900 people in and out, you know, I think size is fundamental, and I believe maybe a maximum size should have been proposed. I don't think we are leaving the issue of size to the developer, and that is scary in a sense. I suppose because of the way the things are set, you know, much couldn't be said of it, but at least probably a maximum, you know. As it relates to a steering committee, I believe, you know, specifications should have been made as it relates to the personnel that it comprises this steering committee. If those are 2 things about the legislation, I think could have been improved upon. But as it relates to the people involvement in this sustainable zone, and even probably in the choosing of it, I think consultation should have been made to the people. And I don't want to repeat myself. We've been talking about this, and I'm sure we have gone over this many and many times. But I do believe Premier Brantley said in his many years being a parliamentarian that he's not aware of matters being discussed with the public before they are legislated. But I think he's wrong with that. I think issue related to the cannabis industry and the legalization of cannabis was in the public domain, town hall meeting, a few places here and there and everywhere before it was legislated. And I think this issue, because there are people who knows a lot about those lands. There are people who knows a lot about those lands. And it brings into one's mind the possibility of what is even possible beneath the lands. A lot of people don't know also that the Christina Memorial that is built down on the Hawkins Drive, the marbles that are made, that are used in to build that memorial, came from that side of the island, came from the south side of the island. And that was just probably a backhoe digging up some things, and a person who was in the present told me those marbles came up in plates. They came up in plates, in sheets. So, you know, just to say that we probably should have been in consultation with the public, and that's why I'm talking about this democracy, you know, being consultative with the public. The public decides, you know. I'm not saying the public should always be that impediment into really making concrete decisions, but this issue really should have been brought to the public and being discussed. I mean, we were told that even the investor gonna come and discuss it. Well, personally, I don't know what the investor gonna come tell the people. I mean, he's gonna tell the people all is well and everything everything is good. And so, and even the aftermath of it, even in the conversation about it, you know, we are constantly being told what to talk about. You know, not to talk about this, not to talk about that, talk about the facts. Well, what are the facts? What are the facts? Because there doesn't seem to be many facts around as it relates to that development. No one knows the size of the development in terms of acreage. No one knows any specifics really at this point in time, it seems like. about the development. So I really don't know what facts they're talking about. Really, if a man say, well, look, I mean, we got goats roaming down there, they're going to say, that's ignorance. You know, talk about what? What should we be talking about? You know, people are asking me all kind of funny questions. How much money the Premier and his law firm would make? How much money Lady Bratton is going to make? These are all kind of questions that are floating around the corners of people's mind because it looks like people are left to make all kind of funny allegations and be caught up in a wave of skepticism, anxiety, and suspiciousness, you know. And so I believe consultation with the public would have been a great thing. And let no one tell you what to talk about as it relates to this issue. You know, they're making mention of we are 99% illiterate, and so let's present a good debate. I mean, the people are the people, regardless of unintelligent or uneducated they are. And they're asking the question that confronts them in their mind. And you must be able to speak to them and answer these questions. And if you think you're on a different level, come on to the level of the people and assure the people that things will be okay. Not no high-handed thing, because we are playing with something, to me, which is our political culture. Things can simply get nasty, you know. I mean, I've been having a conversation with myself just recently, and I'm saying, well, you know, why can't people just express themselves? Why can't people just ask even questions that probably doesn't even make sense? Because nothing at this point really makes any big sense. There's no great facts out there to talk about, really, as it relates to this, you know. I ask myself, well, let's be frank here. Even the issue of corruption, it seems like people want to redefine the word corruption. Now, if the President of America, wife seems to be the one who finds herself between an investor and landowners, then the people of America would say, well, this seems like a conflict of interest, this seems like corruption, and it would be the same thing in England, and so it would be in Nevis. So it's only natural that the people are reacting in a certain way and asking certain questions. You know, if a government minister in the States seems to equip himself with heavy equipment because he knows that there's going to be a project that's going to need such heavy equipment, I mean, in the States, in America, and everywhere, you know, we look at that as corruption. And so those who are trying to redefine this thing, you know, is only contributing to the decadence of our political culture here in Nevis. I mean, that cannot go unnoticed by the public, and any politician who feel like, you know, their very close associate or family member can be involved on that level and thinks that the public would not react. They're probably not supposed to be in that position as a leader, because they are insensitive to the public and almost disrespectful to the public, because in that respect, they are saying that the public is insensitive and basically it's a stupid public because they're not thinking. These are the kind of things that concern me as it relates to this issue. The way they're trying to shut down the people, the way they're trying to minimize the thoughts of the people, and because everybody's still fantasizing. The Premier is fantasizing about how much people is going to be around here. The acreage, the impact, and no one shows. But yet we are always being told what to talk about. Don't talk about that, talk about this. Talk like we are educated. Even the uneducated went to the polls and vote, you know. And so we all will have the conversation and have the conversation together and decide what is best for Nevis going forward together. I am not one who is against an investor coming and doing business in Nevis, but I think this whole thing is being handled in a kind of way that, one, minimize the principles of democracy, two, tends to an attempt to redefine the real meaning of perceived corruption. I'm not saying anyone is corrupt here, but I'm saying it's quite natural that people would be thinking this way. And for anyone who is insensitive, any leader who is insensitive about the public thinking this way, after having a close family member involved in such developments and investment as it relates to the country, is disrespecting the people. And so my thing tonight on this matter, and I'm not sure if we're going to spend much time on it, but I think it's been haunting me that we got to be careful here, that any government, if a new government change tomorrow and say, say the NRP is in power and Janice Daniel seems to get somebody who is absolutely close involved as a buffer or operator between the investor and that wouldn't be accepted. It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable nowhere in the world. It would be looked at suspiciously with a level of skepticism, and really it would cause some ripples. And that is simply what's happening in Nevis. It's not because Nevis people are not intelligent. It's not because Nevis people are just politically drunk. And it's not because Nevis people are spiteful. I, for one, have maximum respect for the Premier and his family, but I would say tonight that I do believe it's a mistake for him not to be thinking that the reaction of the people is quite normal. Things like that cannot become the norm in our political life. Simply that, period. It cannot become the norm. No government to go in, and the Prime Minister or the President or the Premier is saying that my wife is the operator between the investor and the people, and feel like the people would not link all that with some degree of corruption, whether it's true or not. I refer to it as perceived corruption, and perceived deception, and ones have to be careful about that going forward. Respect for the people is fundamental in any democracy.
Yeah, and well, the last time I was here, I spoke to the issue of the acreage being included, and I agree with that. That it appears to me that most persons have the perception that the lands would be so massive that it would take up about six square miles, of Nevis. So as I said the last time, maybe there should be some amendment to the legislation to include an acreage, no more than X acreage. And I believe that, that could, quell the fears of Nevisians somewhat. As I said, I believe that all persons on Nevis would welcome more investment. And if that is the case, let's just make some amendment and put in, some acreage. And I believe that, in anything, Naya, I believe that there's some element of risk. But we have to look at the risk, we have to weigh the risk and see if the good supersede or outweigh the risk. And if the good supersedes the risk, then, hey, go for it.
What risk? What risk are you talking about?
No, I'm speaking from a business perspective.
Okay. All right. Well, of course, I think that's sometimes the first equation one would look at when one is getting involved in something, when one is getting involved in business. Unfortunately, this development proposal, it seems to be a lot more than what one would describe as a risk. I mean, let me say this: anybody in the South who wants to sell the land, sell the land. You know, if I had land there and I wanted to sell, I would have sold. I have no problem with that at all. You know, but what I am saying tonight is where we got to be mindful, and how we got to be mindful about how we try to redefine this thing called corruption, or perceived corruption. And the respect of the people is fundamental, you know. And I am not in any way, I draw hypothetical examples. I say if the President of America, if the Prime Minister of England, it is people you're dealing with, the public, you know, the masses, and they form the basis of this democracy. You understand? And what I'm trying to say, if they are led to feel some way about the actions of their leader, right? In a circumstance as I put forward, you know, close affiliation of family members involved in the business of transaction that would greatly impact the island. You understand? I think one should be very sensitive and not to shut them down and speak to their anguish, speak to their concern with some degree of lightness.
I can't speak to shut down, but what I would have heard the Premier mention some time ago is that they would be having some town hall meetings, and I believe that, as I said previously, that an issue such of this, you know, need, you know, some level of debate and continuous debate until, you know, it is ironed out, so to speak. And I want to believe that if there are town hall meetings, then the Premier would be present, his cabinet members would be present, and I believe that the public would get an opportunity to ask the hard questions, you know. And I want to believe that in those forums, those questions would be addressed one way or the other. So in terms of shutdown, I'm not sure, you know, about shutting down if one want to now have town hall meetings so the public, so we can ask questions. So I just wanted to mention that bit of information.
Yes, and that's why I also speak to the idea of democracy. I mean, never too late, okay? Never too late, but the legislation is already in place. And of course the legislation is...
But of course, but any legislation, you know, there could be amendments, and of course, you know, if you go to the extreme, it can be repealed. So not because it is already in place. I'm not saying that there are going to be amendments, and I'm not saying that it's going to be repealed. What I'm just saying, it doesn't necessarily mean because the legislation is already in place. So, you know, if it is that we need more discussion, we're going to have more discussion based on what the Premier would have said.
Okay. But you're one who will agree that this discussion should have been prior.
If I would agree that this discussion would should have been prior
to the legislation.
Well, the more information one gets, you know, it would be good, you know, for one to formulate, you know, inform opinion or make an informed opinion, have an informed opinion.
What did you do for the independence celebration here in Nevis?
I try to get some rest, Naya. I try to get some rest. I, you know, spend some time with my family, and of course, it was the parade. It was a really wonderful one, Naya. You know, it bring back memories of me and the park marching
We used to march.
Yes. You know, it brings back, lots of memory, and some of the commands, I still, recall, and I recall growing up, in the scouts back then. It was the police, the cadets, and the scout that did the slow march. But I recognize now it doesn't even appear as if that they are scouts. And when they were scouts, a few years ago, they weren't doing this slow march. It was just the cadets and the police. So I would want to see the scouts, come back on stream, and not just come back on stream, but to be part of the slow march. And even the other uniform bodies, the brigades, the pathfinders and what's not. And that is something that we could probably, kind of a segue on, so to speak, Naya. Because we know that, maybe a little controversial, but that is fine. We know that the Seventh-day Adventist worshippers, they have their Sabbath and they don't partake in certain things. And some persons look forward, each independent, to see the pathfinders, displaying their marching skills. And if memory serves me right, they weren't on show last week, Friday, because of course Independence, fell on a Friday, and the parade started at 6. So I am not sure. I know in my day the parade used to start at 7 a.m. So I'm not sure if there's a particular reason why it went to 6 p.m. But maybe some consideration should have, more consideration should have taken to have the maybe sometime during the course of the morning, early morning, so the pathfinders could have taken part. Somebody attribute the change to the heat. The heat. They were saying to me that 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, the sun, the heat at that time is different to the heat at 6 going on to 7 p.m.
Good evening. Let me just get this, gentleman. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
I totally support Naya's view and the aroma coming from this arrangement. The arrangement being made to facilitate the acquisition of land for the development. I think he's very brave to raise the issue of possible corruption frontally like this, because the Premier did attempt to, maybe intimidate is not the exact word, but basically cow people into keeping silent on this and to legitimize how these things are supposed to happen. I actually found it obscene for the Premier to be making reference to, let's say, for instance, the fact that the brother of his opponent can't be allowed a development because it's the brother, if she became Premier, it's his brother. I think using really outlandish examples like that is trying to confuse the issue. There's a reason why in most democratic jurisdictions there are laws against things like nepotism, insider trading, corruption, those sorts of things. Because most everybody understands that if you're in a position to help your friends, your relatives, there is temptation. And so you try to at least put on an appearance or even put measures in place to make sure certain transactions are at arm's length. And there's no whiff of this corruption thing. So I would applaud Naya for this. And similarly, trying to say that, well, we should not introduce pitfalls and the possible bad things associated with these SSDs because they have not happened or they're not factual yet. That again is an attempt, I would say, at intimidation to make people silent, because you have to discuss these things if you're going to determine what the development should be or what's best for the island in that development. I think somebody mentioned it was 700 to 1,000 people. It was 7,000 actually, 7,000 to 10,000 people that was mentioned, and that would fundamentally change the face of Nevis, right? Because money talks, as you well know. And if these people with high net worth come, you can bet your life they're going to wield a whole lot of influence. Okay? And finally, it's all well and good to use the word sustainable. But sustainability is not a word that is usually associated with luxury. When you have luxurious hotels, luxurious homes with the swimming pools and the energy uses and so on, it will affect, even though you might say that they have to provide, 70%, it is going to affect the resources, certainly the delivery of these things on the island in one way or the other. Maybe not even in the zone itself, but outside the zone with that number of people. Okay? So these are things I think should be considered, and at least I think both governments have gotten the message that they did things wrong, and they have to now go to the people and try to convince them that what they're going to be doing is the right thing. That is what should have been done first. You know, sell the project first as great for the future of the island, brings in investment and so on, okay? If it's that good, it should be an easy sell, okay? And we shouldn't have had this kind of difficulty or concerns being expressed. Okay then.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Naya. So I was saying, Naya, that maybe going forward, if the Independence Day is going to fall on a Friday, we are to make some more consideration to be more inclusive, as the Pathfinders would have formed part of the parade for many years.
The Pathfinders are usually people of 7-day
Yes.
Adventist?
Yes.
Okay. The truth is, I didn't go to the park, but when I think of Independence and I think of Grove Park, El Comito Willett Park, but sometimes I like to call it Grove Park, you know. You know why? Because that place have not changed since 1960 something.
Okay, gentlemen, let me just take this. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Hello, good evening, Webbo. Good evening to the listening public.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Webbo, I'm surprised that the conversation diverted that quickly, that easily. Mr. Fifield mentioned something. He said if the good thing outweigh the risk. I mean, risk I understand, but good thing, what good thing that you're going to present to me is secrecy. I mean, the proposal, nobody could get a look at the proposal. And if you're proposing a project on somebody else's land, that is a worrying thing. That is a worrying thing. And the last caller made the point I've been making all along. Is if this project is such a good project, it should be an easy sell. And I feel the same way about J. Thomas. I feel the same way. I've been saying it. I feel the same way. I mean, if this thing is so good, why are we not doing what it takes to invest what we need to invest to get our geothermal resource out. I find the government here are just lazy, sit back and not doing what they need to do. Not doing what they need to do. I find they prey on the people, they disregard the people, disrespect the people. And, you know, I mean, all this should have been, this back and forth should have been up front. This back and forth should have been up front, and I insist the powers that be are leading from behind. They allow this to happen, and they're having a tough job. If this is the way they're trying to sell this project to the people, they're doing a very poor job at it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the word the caller used, which to me I agree, there's a degree of disrespect to the public here in Nevis, and I've checked that out, not just in the era of this issue, where the public is being taken for granted, really, you know, and we are a very quiet people. I know we have this platform, and we are a very quiet people, and I'm not sure.
Let me just take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night, sir.
I tried to get in before anybody else, but I didn't. The first caller. First of all, let me say, Mr. Liebert.
Yes, sir.
While you were making your presentation, I'm here listening to you, and I straight in my head. And just like the first caller said, he agree with you, I'm saying the same thing. The second caller said the same thing. Totally agree with you, 100%. Gentlemen, please bear me out. I could recall, I don't know if it's not a gentleman, if it got to get mixed up with Spicefield and another Herbert.
No, yes.
Did speak about Honduras, Guatemala, and then the Premier did say, why these people talking about them country when he just come and talk about other country too? I don't know if anyone of you can recall that, you know. I don't listen to this program well, you know. He does come and talk about other country, but the gentleman did say, look at Honduras, Guatemala, with the same situation where we talk the conversation, what's in conversation now.
Yes.
And he asked him why the person got to be talking about them. But he don't come and talk about other countries and the policy. Anyway, Mr. Herbert, let me congratulate you for a recording I heard this morning and I heard it this evening on your anniversary. The passing of your dad. Am I correct?
My dad passed a long time ago. The gentleman who you're referring to is my uncle.
Oh, okay. Well, I hear a female voice today with a recording, like, talking about some anniversary, so. Maybe I got it wrong then, but. Anyway, thanks.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, Naya, I interrupted you.
The respect of the people. I spoke about that in my opening remarks, because if you don't expect the people to be sensitive and reactive to certain actions or inactions in government, that means you don't seem to value the people. And as it relates to corruption or perceived corruption, with such close affiliation, not to go back through it all, but it's just normal that the people would be thinking this way, you know. And if you just look at it casually, then you are disrespecting the people. You're disrespecting the intelligence of the people. And that's what I realize is happening a lot here on island. The politicians, well, it's almost like happening in America too. Do you hear people in America bawling out that Trump is changing America like nobody, and Trump is, you know, I mean, we are feeling a kind of way that we are made to say what people want us to say, to have a conversation about what people want us to have a conversation about. And seriously not considering the concern of the people, almost like forcing a half-ripe fruit down the throat of the people. And this is what we are doing. This is what you have to accept. And any conversation that seems to challenge what we are doing is a bit unintelligent and unworthy. I received that kind of vibes from the authorities, the central authorities here in Nevis, on this particular issue, and I think it threatens the whole principles of democracy, and it raises the level of suspiciousness and corruption here on Nevis. I believe the point I'm making, this can't be the norm. Okay? This cannot be the norm. If this continued to be the norm, then we are a corrupt society. We are corrupt people. The governments are corrupt. We are going to be like some people in Africa. This, and the way this is being introduced, and the way it's being played out, the way it's being dealt with, it cannot be the norm, and I would not accept that. I would fight that vehemently, because it looks like we are now to adapt a new meaning to the concept of democracy and corruption.
Naya, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you, Naya, but you would probably say that. Others may not say that. And I guess it comes down to one's interpretation of whatever was disseminated. Now, having said that, I go back to what I said earlier. Maybe the information, as you would have put it, weren't forthcoming, but at least we are now going to get an opportunity to go to the various town hall meetings and vent and ask the hard questions, as I stated before. So in my opinion, if at all there was some level of disrespect based on what you said, then it could be interpreted that the authorities understand that or see it in that light, whether it's true or not, and now are saying, look, we understand that you might have misinterpreted what was said or issued, and we now want to shed more light on it by having various town hall meetings.
I sometimes wish we were talking about A and B and C and D, because I'm, for one, don't like to call names. Okay? I draw a hypothetical example about the President of America.
Yes.
Okay? Would you say, if President Trump's wife was the main operator, the go-between the investor and the people who are dispatching land to have an investment that would change the landscape of America, wouldn't you look at that in a suspicious way? If the president come to the public and says that my wife knew the investors before me, would you believe that wholeheartedly?
Let me ask you this question.
No, I'm asking you these questions. Would you believe that wholeheartedly? Wouldn't this whole thing introduce an ingredient of suspiciousness?
What I'm saying, Naya,
answer.
I'm answering if you give me an opportunity to. What I'm saying, it may, but what I want to say, I'm going to answer you and I'm answering you. But what I'm saying, Naya, is that we have to ask ourselves, if everyone holds the same view as you. And this is what and
it's people we are dealing with, and that's why I tell you, the people in America The people in England and the people in Nevis are the same people.
Yep, but this is what I'm saying. We are the same people. But what I'm
And
saying,
would react to these things in the same way.
Let me take this. Good evening.
You're talking politics, but I'm not.
no, I'm not
Good evening,
talking
thank you for
politics.
holding.
People in America.
Good evening, thank you for holding. Okay, go ahead, gentlemen.
I'm not talking politics at all. It's like both of us are looking at the ocean. And you might be arguing that the ocean is blue. I might be saying the water is transparent. You know, I'm saying some persons would see it differently. And then no, it is for whoever sees the 9 or the 6, depends on the angle that you are looking at. You know, probably would now bring the argument why they say that it's a 6 or it's a 9 or it is blue or it is transparent. People would see things differently, and that is their right as individuals. This is not
thank you.
politics.
Caller, please be patient with us. Yeah, go ahead, gentlemen. I'll wait for the caller to call back.
This is not politics.
Okay, let me see. Let me try once more. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hello,
Good evening. You're on the air.
I am calling away from Belize. Hello,
You're on the air. Could you go ahead? Listen to the phone and you will hear us.
I said I am calling from Belize,
Yes?
and I am listening to your program. I see nothing wrong with the initiative that was taken by the federal government. And the gentleman there is talking about corruption. And he has not singled out one point to show that the initiative is corrupt. Just plain, pure party politics as far as I am concerned. The country is too small and too beautiful for the amount of partisan politics that is displayed on that island. That's my contribution.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening. Yes, gentlemen.
Well, I can't comment on what he said in any big way, because to me it seems to not been getting me correctly, in a sense, because he speaks to the initiative of the federal government. Really, he probably is referring to the legislation. I see nothing big about that, to be quite honest with you. I just find that it's the contract, the development contract, to me is of more relevance, because we speak to specifics.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hello, good evening. Mr. Fifield,
Yes.
you keep talking about town hall meetings and people asking questions, but do you realize when people ask questions, they've been talked down? They've been shut down. I would have thought that if the people have a concern and they ask a question, instead of being met with this heavy debate and argument, it should have been a more civil conversation to appease the mind of the people, answer the questions the people are asking. But when the hard questions come across, some people can't handle it. And that's what's been happening. And if that's what's going to happen in the town hall meetings, I don't think we're gonna be getting anywhere with it. The powers that be have to kind of tone it down a bit and listen to the concerns of the people. That's the way that's the way I know it should be, democracy. But this bully pulpit kind of thing, it's not going to get us anywhere. it's not going to get us anywhere. Sometimes we're told, all opinions should contend, but very rarely see that happening. And this is what I would like to see happen. That somebody listen and have a decent discussion instead of the shouting and the railing. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
No, I was saying before, the prior caller, he's probably talking about the legislation. I have no problem with the legislation. I'm simply just saying it's pretty vague and open, as they say, it's a framework. And to me, not too, tightly knit framework. The development agreement, I think, would be of something of greater concern, because it will speak to more specifics, as to size, how, when, where, or why, meeting sustainable goals as it relates to the projects. And to me, that is where the envelope is going to be pushed. That is where the envelope is going to be pushed. And we're going to see how tight the legislation can contain things, really, because there's a lot of acts, especially as it relates to the sustainable aspect of it,
But the legislation does speak to, a body that would have oversight of the development.
Yeah, may I wait to hear about the body and who the bodies consist of. I do think the legislation should have make specifics as to who these people should be, not in terms of name.
I understand.
But a member from elected member from the opposition, or some. They like to talk about clergy, because they think they're closer to God than everybody else, and maybe somebody from the Christian society, or somebody from the Rasta society. You understand? I mean, a cross section of the public. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. I would have liked that. Just how, because you see this thing we're dealing with, and what I'm talking about in the beginning, deal a lot with the integrity in public life. Integrity in public life. So is the same integrity we're dealing with in America, England, Canada, and St. Kitts Nevis.
So are we saying?
And that's why I'm telling you.
Let me just take this gentleman. I'll come back to you. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes. Again, Naya is exactly right. Okay. The first, one of the suspicious things about this is that these monitoring mechanisms that will provide oversight as well. The legislation speak about may be appointed by the Premier and the Prime Minister. May, not shall. Now, this legislation was drafted, I guess, by very astute legal minds. And I can't imagine that being an oversight. That seems deliberate. And that is not a good thing, because we know, first of all, how boards are appointed in our jurisdiction. Anybody looking over the past, umpteen years, know the kind of cronyism and political patronage involved in boards. And so that is not a good, that does not give us confidence that oversight and monitoring is going to be done in a correct way. Okay? And
Caller, let me ask you a question, please.
Yeah.
What should be done, in your view, so that oversight be done in a correct way? Again,
Naya was correct. I think he was going on to say that maybe an opposition member should be part of that board. Okay?
Well, let me ask you. Work with me. So, as it stands now, it denies an opposition member to be a part of it?
No, it doesn't. But what I'm saying is it should stipulate. It should not be left to the exigencies or convenience of the people who are going to appoint them.
Okay, so if we take the stipulation as it is now, and you add as a must, an opposition person, then you're okay with it.
As well as if you add the existing building boards, planning that does these things right now. How come some people like those should
No, walk with me, right? Because what I want to do is just don't keep talking the same thing over and over again, because we're not going to get nowhere. That will be talk that get no results. I'm asking you, what would you recommend, therefore, for it to be something that you think will be effective? You said that add an opposition member. Okay, you have other things you want to add?
Yes, the existing building boards and planning boards, people who we know are reputable.
No, you can't add people like that. But you work with me. Okay, why don't you do this? Why don't you take a minute or two, maybe organize what you would like in that rule or stipulation, and Naya and Fifield will continue the discussion. You call us back. How about we do that?
All right.
Okay. All right. So that's fair, right?
Yes, I suppose
okay.
so.
Let's do that, and so we can get some thought that get results. Yeah. Naya and Fifield, go ahead.
Yeah, Naya, just before the various calls, I was saying that what I was speaking to is not politics at all. The bottom line is we are individuals, we are made up differently, and we would see things differently. All of us would never see the same thing the exact way for some reason, whether we are colorblind or whatever it is. We would see things differently, and that is our right to make an argument based on how we see things. And I am saying, if persons, because you would have said, that whoever is in power, whoever is in charge, should be for all and not just the majority. So I am saying, if persons now see what has come to light in a different light other than what was hoped to be seen, then I am saying the Premier would have said, yes, we are going to have some discussion, persons could give feedback, persons could now ask questions. I don't say anything. I don't think that that is politics that I'm speaking at all. But then you might interpret it differently. And that's your right.
Mr. Fifield, I am speaking here about closely affiliated individuals, friends, family members,
and I hear you,
and associates, okay, finding themselves in a position where it would impact. Let me draw another example to you, okay? A government minister is aware that there will be a road being built over by Round Hill, okay? He equipped himself with certain equipment, okay? That when the roads start building, his equipment is employed, okay? Wouldn't that be seen in a suspicious way? Wouldn't that be looked at as a level of corruption? Wouldn't that be the same all over the world?
What I'm saying,
in terms of people's reaction and perception of that act.
And this is what I'm saying, Naya.
No, you're talking about the seawater and our kind of optical illusion and so forth. This to me, look, we are dealing with integrity in public life, my brethren. Okay?
So
it is almost the same all over the world.
So are you saying that, that you do not have faith in the integrity in public life that has been established?
You mean the legislation? I'm not talking about the legislation and the wording of the legislation.
No,
I'm talking about
I'm
a certain behavior, almost like an unwritten code of behavior of government officials, prime minister and premier and president, that they should not act in a manner to create that overwhelming suspicion by the public, okay, that they're acting in a way to enrich their friends, their family, and their close associate. That is what I'm saying.
And I'm hearing you, and again, I would say that some would feel that way, but all wouldn't feel that way.
Good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, you're on the air.
Yes, sir, good evening. If my recollection is right, I am almost certain I heard the Premier said some week ago that until he gets more information, he cannot answer certain questions. And so it falls in my mind where people, especially good people like my good friend Naya, is trying to create a thing where he wants people to believe that the Premier is holding back information which he haven't got already. Let's give this thing some time. When we get the information, like he said, you're going to have town hall meeting with the investors, and then people can ask the question. Let us not try to deceive people and try to create bad energy among us, please. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Oh, you know, I hope I'm not accused of creating bad energy, because all I've been talking about here for this evening is healthy politics and the good consummation as it relates to the behavior of public officials. I'm talking about our political culture and keeping it healthy, respecting the principles of democracy, and stop advancing the ideas and the perception that and behavior that would lead to people to start thinking that there is a level of corruption. You know, I am not talking about politics here. I am basically talking about public behavior that leads to integrity in our political system and in our political intercourse, in our political behavior and governance. You know, and that's what I'm talking about.
And there are checks
you know, I do
balance.
understand. I do. The caller just said that the Premier said he would have, you know, as time goes by, he would have more information and he would be able to answer more questions. That is totally understandable by, you know, by me. And you know, that's how it works. You know, I mean, he cannot answer all the questions at this point in time, you know. But I believe he could have answered that particular one that was asked by the lady in the town hall meeting in a more better way, because as one elder individual said to me, he cannot just say point blank he knows nothing about it, but he should have indicate that there probably is something not ready to speak of. You know, I don't like to tell people what to say, because I don't like people to tell me what to say either. You understand? But I think he did make mention of nothing formal. You understand? In one of the back and forth. But in one of the back and forth, you know, he speak to the rumor as, you know, I think he make reference to the person and tell him, go read your Bible and something to that effect. You know what I'm saying? Giving an impression that he knows really nothing about what the lady is talking about. You know? And I think that could have been handled better. And that is one of the reason why this issue have take on this what could I say, constant wave of suspiciousness and anxiety, and the public simply believes, a great number of the public, that they've been hoodwinked to a certain extent.
Naya, I just want to go back to what the point that I was making earlier, Naya, that some persons would believe certain things, some would believe another.
Yeah.
And that is their right.
That is their
and
right.
When you spoke earlier, and the first caller who called said that he totally in agreement with you, and that his is right. That tells me that he sees things the way you see it. Now, we just had a caller that called in, and basically, in my opinion, that caller is saying that I disagree with you, Naya, and that is his right. And that is what I'm saying. People are going to see things differently. You know, people are going to see the same thing, but they're going to see it differently, and nothing is wrong with that. And if there's some cloud, you know, that need clearing, I am saying, and I'm sure you would have said and agreed, that the Premier would have said, hey, when more information is had, we are going to have town hall meetings, etc., etc. And that's all I'm saying.
Well, we must pray for better weather when there are clouds hanging over. Okay? And that's what I'm praying for.
I didn't use clouds in the true sense of clouds. Huh?
That's what I'm talking about. There's a cloud hanging over this thing. And really, to me, it's not about the possibility of an investment that would impact the island. It's about the whole democratic and the whole corruption issues that seems to be festering in people's mind. And not bad people, everyday people, normal people. And it is the kind of things people would be thinking about, whether they're in Nevis, think it's America or London. Because public figures are seriously scrutinized and watched. The integrity in public life bills tends to ensure, you understand, that certain things doesn't take place.
That is what I'm saying tonight. There are checks and balances, and there is the establishment of the integrity in public life.
Yeah, but that's just pen and paper, you know.
Oh, God.
You understand? People's behavior is something completely different.
But Naya, there, in the first instance, it must be pen and paper. Something must, you know, be written and then asked to be followed in a particular way. So it must be written. Because if we're just going to be using verbal, it's like having a contract. Yes, you can have a verbal contract, but I'm sure you would prefer a written contract, something that is in black and white.
Yeah.
So it must be pen and paper.
Well,
but the question is,
I wouldn't dig too deep into that. Let me make another point. You know, because you're talking about the legislation, right? And it is there to prevent, but the legislation always prevent. You know, integrity in public life. It encompasses things that you don't expect a public official to be involved in. Not just robbing the treasury. Not just enriching themselves. So you don't expect a public official to be a thief either. Okay? So these things, when we speak of a public official being a thief, we're talking about integrity in public life too. You know? He is a person of no integrity, but he's in public life.
But Naya, this is why the framework came into being, because we cannot define individuals in the entirety. So in the event that they sway or come out of line, so to speak, then the legislation is there to bring them in line or to discipline them, as the case may be. Because it's not what we expect. Like sometimes we don't expect certain things.
Okay. The minister that buys an equipment, anticipating that there's going to be a project and his equipment is going to be hired, you know, in front others equipment, because he's the one who decides who equipment is hired. You understand? That to me contradicts integrity in public life. What do we do with that individual? What do we do with that government minister? This is hypothetical. But even though you play out in real terms, maybe even here in Ireland, what do we do with that person?
We deal with him or her according to the laws.
Now, the public, regardless of where in the world, will look at him or her in the same light. In the same light. They are saying that, they would say he abusing his position. He shouldn't be doing that. She shouldn't be doing that. Okay? And that's the point I'm trying to make. Now, if that's become the norm, we are sowing seeds of corruption. We are allowing it to grow. Okay? So the point I've been making all night is like what I see surrounds this whole sustainable development project here in Nevis, and the getting of and the buying of lands leading up to it, and the lack of knowledge by certain people who should have had knowledge, and these talks.
Now, let me ask a question. And you would help me, I hope. You are currently into welding.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. You have established yourself as a welder. Yeah?
Yeah, man.
Tomorrow, the people of St. Paul's decide they want you to be the representative. They vote for you. You are now an elected member. You are not just in parliament, but you are part of the existing government. You have already established yourself before politics as an established welder. Now, there is a project that is on the horizon that is coming up, for steel buildings. In government, you have your company running, probably by someone else. Let's say a manager.
Yes.
Just let's say a manager. And that person bids, presumably. And that person get a job. What do you think?
What do I think?
Remember that you are already established.
Yeah. I'll be mindful. I'll be very mindful.
So would you turn it down?
If it's a way that I can do not take it all for myself, I will. I would be very mindful. Well, this is where the sensitivity comes in. You don't allow these things to brew in people's mind. I would have, in all honesty, ensure that other people eat from it. Other welders, I'll be happy to do that. Okay? And let me tell you, it's I don't have to be a government minister. I've trained people into welding, and they have left. They have gone on their own, and I have sent business there all the time. I'm a guy who, as a welder, operate in a communal way. You understand?
Which is good.
Never ever. I want it all for myself, and I try to live in good relationship with all. Well, it's just Sunday, I was on a job, and a man called me and tell me, Naya, I fire a man Friday. Do you want him?
Let me take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hi, good evening, gentlemen. I just have one question for Mr. Fifield. Could you please clarify regarding the issue of integrity in public life, how you see the actions of the Premier and his wife related to the proposal and land issue in the south of Nevis? So I just want to hear very clearly, because I love the discourse and I understand Mr. Lybert's point, but I'm really trying to understand where you stand and how you see things, because I know everyone can come from different perspectives, so I just really want to hear your thoughts, views.
Thank you, Carla, and I feel somewhat honored that you would want to hear my perspective. Yes, as I made the analogy to Naya, and if you follow closely, I'm sure you could find maybe a thread, so to speak. From what I understand, from what I know, from what I heard, you know, the Premier's wife would have been a realtor long before the Premier would have been in active politics. And she would have been established. And then here comes the Mr. Brantley and into elective politics, and now the Premier. What I'm saying, what we have to look at and to probably see if there's some, you know, overlapping, you know, conditions, so to speak, that allows her to get those, quote unquote, those particular jobs. We could look at it, is it because her establishment is of such that persons want to do business with her because of her track record? So those are things that we have to look at too. Now the other question would be, if other persons, you know, realtors want to a piece of the pie, so to speak, and they are not allowed to get piece of the pie, then we could probably look at it differently. I don't know if I would have answered your question.
Obviously, the caller is gone. And I think she wanted to hear your perspective on and you have obviously explained you know, the way you have seen things, in a sense, you know. Now, let me get this clear. I am not in any way accusing anyone of corruption. Okay? I am simply saying, in the manner in which we conduct ourselves as public officials, we can encourage these sorts of corruption. And I think in this particular circumstance, there's enough for people to start thinking along that way. Okay? What's the truth? I don't know. And we may not know. But there is, from the public point of view, a level of corruption, perceived corruption, and perceived deception as well.
Let me ask you this, Naya. You know of any government in any region that there is not a level of corruption or perceived corruption with them?
If I know of any government?
Yeah.
I would doubt that there's any.
Okay.
Yeah, I would doubt that there's any.
Okay. So in other words, we are basically just in normal territory, so to speak.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay,
we're dealing with a particular issue.
Walk with me. We're dealing with a particular issue. And you just told me that you don't know of any government that is not accused of corruption.
Yes, I can say that.
So all I'm saying is,
it's easily
walk with
said.
me. So all I'm saying is, based on this discussion on the points being made, so this is no different.
So you would, you are settled and in quite normal bearings of the.
No, I'm not giving an opinion on it. I'm deducing from the argument that you're making, and I'm comparing it with the normal operations. And I'm asking you if you know any government that is not assigned blame of corruption. You said no.
And I'm correct.
Okay.
And I'm correct, but the point I'm making...
Good evening. Let me take this. Good evening. I'm sorry about that.
Point I'm making, Webbo.
Let me take this. You listen what I do.
Listen. I understand. I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, walk with me.
You know?
Walk with me. I just take a little minute or two now and then. Right?
Yeah.
And when I'm finished, I'm going to give you the rest of the time.
Okay.
I just wanted to point out something which I observed.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, Webbo. Webbo, I know you usually ask the questions, but I would like to ask you a question.
No. Walk with me.
I can't.
Hello.
Walk with me.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Greeting, Brother Webbo.
Yes.
Brother Webbo?
Yes, you're on the air. Could you go ahead?
Blessed night to you and blessed night to your panel in love and honor. And blessed night to your listeners. Just listening to the program, I find it very hard to see that we as a people prior to the legislation is not put in the format that is properly need to be. When you're going to put a legislation into a parliament and have it read 3 times and pass into law, raise the ground level of the information sharing to the public properly for the public view to know what is the criteria of what the legislation really meant. Now you all are saying these grounds, and as the Virgin outlined, integrity in public life. And here is it that we're still seeing all kind of mockery is going around in this format, where we're saying as a people we're supposed to share in the strength of putting proper information to the public view. And then you're going to tell me, as one of your panel said, that our caller said that the Premier said when he do get information, he will relate it to the public. Well, he don't have the information. What crap are you putting on the public view? When you are telling people that when he get information.
Caller. Walk with me. I understand people will get passionate and so on. But what I want to suggest to you, that you choose your language carefully, because walk with me. Yes, Naya, go ahead.
Well, there's corruption all over, and it's well known in places like Africa. They say we know that too, and we should always be ready and willing to speak of corruption and expose corruption, and if we can pass on guidance to those in authority to act in a proper way, not to encourage the ideology of corruption. And sometimes it's wrong, Webbo. Sometimes you tend to accuse people and government, and you're not always right, but, it's when it surfaces, we should speak of it and trample it down with vehemence, just to say to come proper, come transparent to the people. And I've been making the point all night. It doesn't matter where, the public are the same. So when we see that level of interaction and behavior in public life, and it looks like corruption, we speak to it.
On the point of that you gentlemen were discussing on the integrity in public life, you agree that for years on this very program, we always, when I said we, I mean the panel, everybody discuss and agitate for the Integrity in Public Life Act. Remember that?
Yeah.
And we debated as if we get this act, it will solve a lot of the problems. You agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't agree with that, Webbo. But I remember the debates.
Listen to the question.
I remember the debates.
Let me ask a question.
Because I never feel like that act gonna stop any kind of suspiciousness.
Okay, so when we were arguing and debating for it to be in place, why were we doing it?
Well, is quite broad, but it's like a strap over the back. But it's not a totally preventative method.
You get the question that I'm asking.
Yes.
Let me go over it
Yes,
again.
I get the question. Yeah.
So, if we're asking to have, let's say, a traffic officer at the crossroads by the school, because we have too many accidents involving children there, and we are asking for that. Is it fair to suggest that we are asking for it because we feel that putting that in place will mitigate or cut down the number of incidents?
Yes, mitigate and cut down.
Okay.
It's an instrument of help.
All right. So let's go back to the integrity in public life. Because of the accusations we were making, etc., in terms of public officials and so on, we agitated for an Integrity in Public Life Act. Is it fair to deduce that one, in getting it, we had the expectation that it will remedy some of the activities that were going on?
Yes, remedy some of the activities.
Right. So, in listening to the discussion, I'm thinking and hearing about integrity in public life. But I'm thinking, but we have the Act.
It's just an instrument to help. It doesn't erase it. It's just an instrument that helps. It helps.
Okay.
But it cannot prevent it.
Okay. All right. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Well, good evening. I was going to debate over in the same and I really want to condemn the virulent nature of the politics in my federation. Politics, the black leadership should be transforming, the transformative. I talked to Mark Burnley that about to be more inclusive. If you had everybody sitting at the table, there would be no discussion like this. But because of the divisive nature of the politics, some left out and some in. That is why all of this is happening. We have to transform the way how we do things as a government, as people, not really lynching and pulling. I could bet that if the NRP was in power doing that, CCM would be on the outside doing the same thing what NRP is doing now. Kicking down the blocks, the building blocks. We're not joined. We need to come together and transform the political arena. Transform it so that we can be more cooperative and work more together and share what we have around rather than pulling down and kicking down. That is all my contribution for tonight. If thanks.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening.
That caller would have said what he just said in terms of inclusive and the nature of the politics. And I'm saying this because when we look at the federal level, I think right here earlier tonight, Naya would have, and Naya could correct me, would have said that persons in Sinkit especially, they are saying that the opposition leader is not opposing. I would have heard Mr. Brantley said that, he would have matured. These are my own words, in terms of what he said, and he look at, the responsibility of the leader of the opposition in a different perspective. If he has to oppose, he would oppose. If he have to, agree, he would agree. So I just find that kind of interesting. And to that too, I want to believe that all political parties in Sinkits, Nevis, and wherever, I want to believe that, but for our discussion, let me just narrow it down to Nevis. All political parties and Nevis, I would want to believe that they have the best interests. I want the best for Nevis. It's just that their ideologies, the way of going about certain things, may not sit well with certain sections or certain persons or the masses. And for example, I cannot see that, any party in government is going to sit with the opposition and say, come, I have a plan, I have a project, and a proposed investor, and I want, us all to sit at the table, at least in the initial stages. I'm just not seeing that, because we must remember that political parties, come out of certain come from certain backgrounds with certain ideologies, as I said earlier. So I'm just not seeing that, at least in the initial stages. I am not saying that there shouldn't be discussions. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that I'm not seeing that in the initial stages that both parties sitting at the table.
Well, I'm not sure that the caller was proposing to see such things. I think he made a strong point where blocks, he said kicking down the building blocks. I mean, I've seen that happen a lot in politics here between the two political parties. A project comes and one try their endeavor best to stop it. Another project comes and that's back and forth. Really just hurting the progress of the island. I would like to see that stop, because government is supposed to be of some kind of continuity, and I believe when something is about to happen in the interest of the people, especially when it has been established, that is what's important. It has been established and up and running, and the next government come in and pay it no regards, And then I see something happen in recent past. I mean, one party in opposition said, no, we don't want that. And as soon as they get in power, they run to the same people and tell them they want it, but in a different place. And it never really happened, And so we got to be mindful that we don't, destroy ourselves by such behaviors, to be quite honest. There are some projects that the opposition would not agree with, and well, to be honest, it seems to be like it's more in their interest to see the party in power not doing anything of importance, so the people can give them credit, and it just happened vice versa. I mean, we've seen it happening in the Great America.
But
today.
Do you think that's
the
that's
greatest
right?
example of democracy, and you can say political maturity. We see it happening. We've seen Trump trying to stop the Obamacare and all these type of stuff happening. Undoing things that, that is serving the public interest. And so, is it democracy? Is it is that a product of democracy or a byproduct of democracy?
Naya, what I want to say, Naya, is that, and I'm going to continue to say it, that I believe that most persons in Nevis want to see more investment in Nevis. And we have various forums, persons like you and I, where we can speak other persons to, not necessarily the microphones of VO and radio. And if we want that, why not agitate more? Why not lend our voices and hope that our voices would be heard in terms of, the legislation, whether it's going to be amended, whether it's going to be repealed, as I said, what we want to see in it in order to have checks and balances, in terms of whether it's the acreage, whether it's what happens in that particular zone. And we must be mindful that the special sustainable development zone, has not been established. Because remember, you have to go to Parliament before it could be established. And I believe that that is fundamental, and persons are just jumping over that. But I am saying, let us say, when or if this zone is established, all Nevisians, all citizens would be able to pass, quote unquote, freely. Because someone reminded me of I might have heard it from the premier on one of his programs during a particular program, which is absolutely the truth. When Four Seasons is full to capacity, as a matter of fact, I was at Four Seasons a few weeks ago. When I drove down, the security stopped me, and I said, well, I'm going X place, Y place, and when Four Seasons is full to capacity, they don't, especially with these big groups, they don't allow persons. They say, sorry, we are closed. That might happen in the sustainable development zone. But what we do not want is persons stopping persons arbitrarily to say you cannot enter. So then we now have to put certain things into the legislation to prevent such. Because I've been hearing, oh, you cannot go in there, you cannot walk, you cannot this, you cannot that. I mean, says who?
Well, the sustainable zone is going to have their own bylaws. Bylaws, not laws, according to the legislation. Bylaws. These laws must be in accordance with the law of the land.
Exactly. Just like your business.
They must be in accordance with the law of the land. And of course, the bylaws would be coming from, of course, the development agreement. And that's why I said the development agreement is that's where we're going to be dealing with specifics. Mm-hmm. And that's where the legislature just around about, but the development agreement is where they're going to have specifics and the bylaws to support these specifics, what they want, how they want, who they want come, and maybe how they're going to search you when you go, or they're not going to search you. Things like that. Or you're going to just pass free and nice, or you can go and just swim in the swimming pool if you want.
This is what I'm saying now. So maybe the conversation need to be along these lines.
Well, why I want to tell people what the conversation should be?
No, I'm saying maybe. But now is you just brought it up in Anaya? It wasn't me, No.
But
I am just giving my opinion. So why are you telling me that I cannot give my opinion?
No, I'm not telling
on
you.
a particular.
You cannot give an opinion.
But that is how I take it.
You, there would be bylaws, right, over there, and the bylaws is going to be influenced by the agreement. Right, the development agreement. Okay,
who would sign up on the agreement?
This might be anything. I even say you can swim in the swimming pool. Maybe not. Maybe they search you. Maybe before you go down there, you might have to take off your shirt. I'm not sure what the bylaws may ask of you. You understand? But you're saying this is what the conversation. But I've been hearing that all the time, and I'm fed up of that because it looks like you tonight, as you just did. But the premier before and every show is trying to tell people what to be talking about, what our conversation should be about. And I'm fed up of that because
I think that the
conversation should be.
You're misinterpreting me. You brought the bylaws to the fore, and I am saying that if there's a fear that persons may have to take off the shirt, to use your example, and might have to search. I am saying, well, if that's a fear, maybe we could speak to it. Maybe we ought to be speaking to it. That is what I am saying. And earlier on, just give me a minute. Earlier on, and there are persons who are saying, right, that this thing should have come to the fore before. Now I am saying, to the best of my knowledge, the bylaws are not in place yet.
Yes.
So are we going to wait now till the bylaws come into effect to discuss them, when we could probably jump ahead with foresight and start to discuss them, so the powers that be know what we are thinking as the masses, and have a good idea to know what should be incorporated in the bylaws. That is what I'm saying. I am not saying that we should shift or divert and speak specifically on that and nothing else. I'm not saying that at all.
Okay.
But if we're going to argue that, yes, that this thing should have come to the fore before and not now, so why can't we discuss? So if we don't discuss these things that are anticipated now, and when they are enforced, we discuss them, then what are we going to say? We should have after the fact.
Well, I think bylaws would be obviously a product of the economic agreement, and I don't think up to that point we will be having town hall meeting to discuss anything at all. To be quite honest, I think that is when the zone would be already declared and to an extent probably handed over to the investors. And I can't be sure about all this, but all I'm saying that there will be bylaws, and how can we anticipate them? I don't know. The nature of those laws, I don't know. But I honestly don't feel like is anything of great concern, because a lot of us don't know. You understand? A lot of us don't know. That place that close to the St. Thomas's School, what's that hotel there? They're very restrictive as well there. As to, when you come down, the taxi man tell me you gotta declare yourself, in such ways. And so maybe right amongst us we have, real strict bylaws or modus operandi on compound, and bylaws probably will take such effect also, in we hope. Still friendly, but of course very restrictive. Very restrictive.
And
well, it have to be that, if because security is important, and of course they would have their own arbitrary, what is it, problem solving mechanism and machinery in the semi-legal setting, I suppose.
It's just like the bank.
Yeah.
The bank would have their security. I'm sure that the security would stop me if I want to enter without a shirt on. Because
and
those are the rules. But what I'm saying, once the rules are not, of such that we feel as if that it is impeding on our rights,
yeah.
Fundamental right, then, we abide by them. But if we feel as if that, as I said, because persons are saying all manner of things, if we feel as if that those would form part of the bylaws, what I'm saying, let us express ourselves now. Let us express ourselves and say, if this were to be, we do not want it.
Yeah, of course. I think we know our rights here in Ireland. We know we have access to the beach. We know if you buy a piece of property and you say, don't come here, we can't go there. But we have access to the beach.
Of course.
Yeah, and, at least we have that. Beyond that, I don't know how much we have. I suppose there will be bylaws as it relates to the workers. And then they themselves going to have to check their rights, their human rights and constitutional rights, I suppose, as it relates to terms of employment and so forth, which maybe constitute part of the bylaws arrangement. But of course there's employment regulations, I think, run by the governments also. And so I believe, look, I'm not one who is ready to exaggerate and to be extreme about human beings, you know what I mean? And whoever is going to operate these zones can't be no more human than us. I mean, they can't prove nothing. They're on our island anyway, you understand? So they can't push the curtains too much, actually, as far as I check. And regardless of what they put in the law and the legislation, as Martin Luther King say, it is our moral obligation to disobey. laws that are unfair.
Now, panel, let me ask you, gentlemen, a quick question. As based off the comment that Naya just made, how are you going to determine the difference if all of us are citizens?
Difference in
what the point that you were just making, right? If all of us who we are talking to about are citizens, how can you make a difference?
They have the same rights.
Yeah, we have the same rights, but in your own house and on your own land, you have your own expectation. You set your own rules. I'm not sure if I'm on that same level with you there. You know, so there is, I suppose. And of course, a special zone would have special laws.
Right. Whether it is you live in, let's say, Panelist, if I live in Government Road, Fife, you live in Gingerland, right? All of us are citizens. That's the one thing we have in common.
Yeah.
And as a consequence, we begin to argue we should be treated across the board.
We should be.
Right. So, how are you going to reconcile that?
It may never be reconciled. There are unanswered questions all the time as it relates to the equality of humanity.
That's the last word.
Webbo, just can I just butt in briefly? I just want to say a special...
Hello, you're going to be brief?
Yes. You know, happy 102 birthday to Miss Clark there in Chickenstone in Pan Hill area. Yeah, hope you enjoy. May God continue to bless you.
This program repeats tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Join Keith Scarborough on Thursday evening at 8 o'clock for Government at Work. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community. Thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
Ready to stay bodybuild? The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program are solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or